Welcome to Timeless Sparks, the channel where history's boldest thinkers and revolutionary ideas blaze alive. Today, we're unlocking the mind of one of history's most controversial figures, someone who wielded a pen sharper and more dangerous than any sword, François-Marie Arouet, known to us as Voltaire. Was he the hero of reason, freedom, and progress, or a dangerous radical who disrupted the fabric of his time? Get ready to dive into the dazzling brilliance and dangerous rebellion that was Voltaire. Born in Paris in 1694, Voltaire came into a world tightly ruled by religious orthodoxy and absolute monarchy. It was a world where questioning authority wasn't just discouraged. It could cost you your freedom, or worse. But Voltaire wasn't one to tiptoe through the world quietly. As a young man, he possessed razor-sharp wit and a stubborn refusal to bow to tradition. Qualities that, as you'll soon see, would define his life and land him in plenty of trouble. Take, for instance, his fiery youth. By the time he was in his 20s, Voltaire's tongue had already earned him enemies among the nobility. One particularly biting insult towards a French aristocrat landed him a stay at the Bastille, the notorious prison that held Paris's most dangerous dissenters. And yet, for Voltaire, punishment wasn't an end, but a beginning. Upon his release, he was exiled to England, a twist of fate that would be a game-changer for this young intellectual firebrand. In England, Voltaire's world turned upside down. Gone was the rigid hierarchy of France. Instead, he encountered a society with freedom of the press, constitutional monarchy, and a climate of religious tolerance where different views could be openly discussed. Formed thinkers who would forever change his perspective. He absorbed the revolutionary ideas of John Locke, who championed individual rights and the concept of government by consent, and Isaac Newton, whose discoveries in science and mathematics revealed a universe governed by natural laws, opening up vast new possibilities for human reason. England wasn't just an exile, it was an awakening, igniting the fire that would fuel his life's work. This awakening ignited Voltaire's most dangerous weapon, his pen. When he returned to France, he couldn't stay silent. His writings asked provocative questions and issued cutting critiques. Why should rulers have unchecked authority? Why was the church using fear rather than reason to control people's lives? Perhaps most famously, his book, Letters, Concerning the English Nation, juxtaposed England's freedoms with France's oppression, an ideological comparison so incendiary. The French government banned the book and burned the copies. And this was just the beginning. Voltaire didn't just go hiding after that censorship. He doubled down, and over the next decades, his writings would shape the core ideas of his age. Take Candide, for example, one of his most famous works. It's a satire packed with biting humor, mocking blind optimism, religious hypocrisy, and the absurdities of war. Or look at Treatise on Tolerance, a heartfelt plea for religious freedom inspired by the tragic wrongful execution of a Protestant merchant named Jean Calas. Even his essays, pamphlets, and plays carried a singular mission: to fight ignorance, fanaticism, and tyranny wherever they appeared. Voltaire didn't just stop at criticism, he offered alternatives. Reason over superstition, knowledge over blind faith, science over fear. These ideas weren't just meant to stir the pot, they were revolutionary, sparking what we now call the Enlightenment. Voltaire wasn't alone in this intellectual revolution, but he stood out like a blazing star. While thinkers across Europe questioned the old systems, Voltaire challenged them relentlessly, defending victims of injustice and turning ideals into activism. He refused to accept that kings and clergy deserved absolute allegiance simply by divine right. He believed in freedom, humanity, progress. In fact, Voltaire's words planted seeds that would grow into revolutions. French revolutionaries knew his writings well, and his ideas inspired great minds across the Atlantic, like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Paine. The notion that free speech was a human right, that reason should rule above fear, those are Enlightenment ideals seeded by Voltaire. Still, Voltaire's views didn't come without risks or criticism. His sharp tongue brought enemies at every corner, and his refusal to conform kept him exiled, banned, or under threat for much of his life. He was struck with labels like heretic, dangerous radical, and worse. And let's not pretend he was perfect. He lived with contradictions himself, sometimes echoing prejudices of his time, even while fighting for progress. But Voltaire's fight against oppression, fanaticism, and injustice was bigger than his own flaws. He might not have lived to see the full fruits of his labors. He died in 1778, just before the storm of the French Revolution. But the world he left behind was forever changed. Today, Voltaire's legacy still sparks debates. He's remembered for his defense of free speech and his cutting critiques of outdated systems. More than 200 years later, his ideas remain powerful in a world still fighting for freedom, tolerance, and the dignity of reason. And now it's your turn to make sense of this remarkable man. Was Voltaire a hero? A dangerous radical who destabilized the world? Or maybe, just maybe, he was both. Exactly the kind of provocative thinker needed to challenge tyranny and spark change. If Voltaire's story made you question, if it made you think, then join us here at Timeless Sparks on this journey through thought and history. Like the video, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss another chance to dive deep into revolutionary ideas. Now, tell us, in your view, was Voltaire a hero of reason or a dangerous radical? Drop your thoughts below and let's keep the conversation alive.